So right now we're in Point Pleasant Park, and we're in Cambridge Battery. We're going to be doing a stabilization and partial restoration exercise on the fortifications at Cambridge Battery, also Fort Ogilvie and Northwest Arm Battery. So when we talk about stabilization, what we're talking about is actually stopping the degradation that's happening because these fortifications haven't been maintained really since, some of them since the 1840s, some of them since the 1860s, and all of them since really the end of the First World War. So we're standing in an area right now that was built in the 1840s, British fortifications, and I'm standing in a gun emplacement right now. And we will be coming in here and we are going to be repointing these stones so that we no longer get water penetration into them, because water is what pulls these fortifications apart. We'll also be reestablishing the gun notches and uncovering the gun race that was underneath here. And there's a possibility that if we're able to secure some cannon, we may place a cannon just here so that for kids to climb on, just so that they understand that this is a place where there were fortifications. But what we're not trying to do is actually do a full-bore restoration of these fortifications. In our plans, it recognizes that these fortifications are here, they're part of the park. Kids, generations of children have come down here and played on them, and we want that to happen. So what we're doing is in some cases we're going to be burying fortifications where we have unsafe areas, and burying is actually a means to stabilize. So here we are again at Cambridge Battery, and I'm actually standing in a room that when the British actually abandoned a fortification and then wanted to build something else, they just simply tore apart the old fortification. So they would have torn this apart. What we're going to be doing is actually entombing this. You can see how the stonework is and the grout and mortar is failing, and so we have this slow slow dismantling by nature of the fortifications. By burying it, we get to preserve that. Someday someone may want to come in here and study this. So as I had mentioned, that we're not doing a full restoration of these fortifications, that these fortifications are actually ruins that you can find in the park, and they're very, very interesting to people. And it actually helps create a place within the park, an identifiable place. So we're going to capitalize on that. We're going to be doing a little bit of landscaping in here. We're going to improve the yard so it's a better place for kids to play, people to have picnics, that type of thing. All the slopes will be accessible. That are when we slope up against a fortification. We might leave the top available so you understand there's a building underneath that. But they'll all be places that people can actually utilize. Shakespeare by the Sea uses this area an awful lot, or had, but then it became unsafe because of the degradation of the stonework. So by restoring this and stabilizing it and entombing certain areas, we'll actually be able to make it available for Shakespeare by the Sea, for special events, community functions, etc. Entombments are a common way to actually preserve built structures, especially structures built of stone and brick and mortar. This area was entombed first by the British when they began changing the fortifications. Areas that they didn't need, they entombed in case they needed them later. But even behind me is an area that was entombed by Parks Canada back in the 1960s in order to ensure that the building that's behind us remained intact. And there are buildings that flow all the way through these earth mounds and right out to the moat. That most people just think of that moat as a pathway. Well, it actually is a filled-in 8-foot deep defensive ditch. So we will actually be starting this construction this fall and continuing right the way through December and into the winter. And during that time, we want people to, there's plenty of vantage points to see what's going on, but we're going to have the areas at Ogilvie, at Cambridge, and at Northwest Arm Battery that we are working on actually cordoned off. So you won't have full access to those areas, and I think the public can understand that. But we hope to have them back in play for the public in the spring.